All righty. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Happy summer and all that good stuff. We are ready to, as they say in Spanish, roll them. As soon as my nephew John gives me the control of the room, sometimes he doesn't. He's got kind of a power thing. He wants control. Sometimes he gives me control. Hopefully he'll be nice to me today and give me control. Got a warm day in Chicago. But we'll take it. We will take it. All right, John's keeping all right. Well, folks, let's go. Welcome today. We're going to talk about broken wing butterflies. Sounds like, like a three-legged animal or something. It sounds something incomplete, right? How many of you have done broken wing butterflies and have lived to talk about it? How many of you, if anybody in here, done a broken wing butterfly? Benny and the Jets. Benny and the rest of you have done these so-called broken wing butterflies. This will be the next master's class. I think this is a extremely important strategy in the world of consistent weekly and monthly income, but I think it is one of the misunderstood strategies I've seen. I've seen person after person sell these strategies like you would. You remember the old Westerns on TV, Gunsmoke? Any old enough to remember Gunsmoke and some of these? And you'd always see some of these old Westerns. The old con artist would come through town and he'd sell an elixir, right? Famous elixir that would cure all your ills. And what was that elixir? Anybody? What was the elixir? Snake oil, but what was in there usually? The elixir. Pure booze, wasn't it? Usually. And everybody would get ripped. And so temporarily all their problems would go away. And what's my point? Many times I see on these broken wing butterflies, people sell them or present them like they're some low risk, wonderful, poodle strategy that is, just easy. And to me, it's a good strategy, and we'll explain why today, but there's some very real risks in most of these. And in the examples that I'll show you today, the risk is on the downside, but many will paint it as that this is actually a strategy that benefits on the downside. And there's a little bit of truth to that, but they paint, most of it's marketing. And I want to try to give you a realistic understanding of what is a broken wing butterfly. Really, why do we do them? And also give you one thing. They've been tremendously successful the last 8 years. But let me throw something out. Is anybody aware of, maybe you guys aren't, maybe you guys live in a cave in the rainforest in Brazil, but for those of you who live in reality, what's happened in the market the last 8 years? Anything? What's happened with the market the last 8 or 9 years? Anybody? A bull market. That's kind of crazy, a bull market. And so what we'll talk about today is here's a strategy that very similar to what I would look at as a covered right, cash secured put credit spread. It's made for the upside, right? You can do a broken wing butterfly in any market condition, but I'll talk about a little bit today how they've been used, why we use them, and we've used different versions that have been extremely successful. It's one of the more popular strategies, but I think less than 10% of the world population in the options community has a realistic grasp of what it is they're dealing with, right? It's like if you take a pig, right? If you take a pig and you dress up a pig in a nice tuxedo and bring him to a nice resort in Arizona, beautiful swimming pool. He's a pig. He's going to look for mud, right? He didn't care about the tuxedo. And I'm saying it's important as you as a retail trader to thoroughly understand a strategy, master your strategy. So the next master's class coming up will be broken wing butterflies. So quick slide or so on that, and we will jump in. All right. Couple quick, before we get started, and we'll roll in with some examples. And we'll talk about volatility and everything. But this is for educational purpose today. John, since John is the host, I have to tell John when to switch slides. So John, as they say on Wheel of Fortune, turn the page. Right? Or do you got to do that, John, or do I do that? Okay, I guess I can do that. Okay, so class, now I could, yeah. Oh, did you make me present? Class schedule. So this is a master's class. It doesn't mean you have to have master's experience. It starts July 18th, a week from Thursday. We'll go 1 p.m. Central for 6 classes, 3-week class. Each class, the usual, is about an hour. Usually the first class, sometimes I go 2 hours or more. Class cost, as usual, for a 3-week class, about 6 to 8 hours of live content, $297. All classes recorded and archived. You can continue to watch them months after the class, and always there's a button for questions. You can ask questions anytime, and they come to me. So this will be starting a week from Thursday, July 18th. Master Series, again, all Master Series doesn't mean that you have to be the most experienced person in the world. Masters just means that we're going to focus on one thing. And really, you know, for most of you, that's what you're really looking for, something that you can do consistently and make some monthly income on, right? So we're trying to get you on a strategy, really get at the core of what makes these work, what problems people do with them. All right. Some of the topics to be covered in the class, philosophy and magic of broken wing butterflies and the SPX and RUT. Those are the 2 main vehicles we'll trade. We do trade some stocks, but these, and we'll talk about it, these are the main vehicles. You know, all the why behind it, setting them up, what people think is the magic of these, and what we think is the magic of them and what it isn't, because that's important, and where really the problem is on these things. We'll talk about mainly during this class 30 to 60-day broken wing butterflies, when and when not to put on, strikes, with risk management, best adjustments for upside and downside. A lot of people will put certain adjustments on these for the upside and downside. Remember, the upside is a completely different. The upside is like Miami Beach, Florida. The downside is like Antarctica, right? They're different conditions. You can't use the same adjustments all the time with these. You know, on the downside, if you don't incorporate puts in some capacity on these strategies, you should have your license taken away, and you should have at least 3 to 4 months in jail. On the upside, I don't care about using a long call as a possible adjustment. It's different. And I think that's the problem with a lot of people who peddle these strategies. They really don't understand the upside and the downside. You say, how do you know? Well, look at their adjustments, right? You know, and that's what we're going to focus a lot on class. every class I'll put on a live trade and follow it through from beginning to end to make it as practical as possible. And then we'll talk about tweaking these strategies when VIX is lower. We'll have two very good strategies that when the VIX gets a certain low level, how we will tweak these broken wing butterflies to eliminate a lot of the volatility risk. So we use VIX as kind of a trigger along with the market and other indicators when to tweak these things. All right, so here's the first example, strictly for discussion purposes. This would be an at-the-money broken wing butterfly 44 days out. First of all, just so we're all on the same page. So here's an example of a broken wing butterfly, and there's many different ways to do it. I'm going to give two examples today, just so we can discuss this. But so here's an example I took when SPX was at 29.95, maybe a half hour ago. And a broken wing butterfly, what's the foundation of a broken, or the foundation of a broken wing or any kind of butterfly, especially the right terminology on this, excuse me, it should have been an broken wing iron butterfly. You with me? So I forgot a word here. Thank you, Leo. This is a broken wing iron butterfly. Anytime you hear the word iron, like an iron condor and an iron butterfly, what does that mean? The minute you hear the word iron, to go with butterfly or iron condor, what does the iron signify? Anybody? Well, yes, it signifies it'll be a credit. It doesn't signify the strikes will be the same. It signifies calls and puts. So when you see the word iron in front of an iron butterfly or iron broken wing butterfly or iron condor, it means you're going to be selling a call and a put, and you're going to be doing them, so like a combo, like Leo said, you're going to sell a call and a put. Now, when you do a broken wing iron butterfly or an iron butterfly, you're selling a call, that the foundation is selling at the money call and put. What's that called? The foundation of a broken wing or an iron butterfly is selling at the money call and put. What's that called? Where you just sell an at the money call and put, a short straddle. So the foundation of an iron butterfly or broken wing iron butterfly is a short straddle. And again, why are we doing that? Because you want to sell, you're an insurance company. You want to sell the most extrinsic value in this, the most extrinsic value in a options chain is your at the money options. So by selling the at the money call and put, you're selling the options with the most extrinsic value, and that's the part of an option that decays the most, right? So you're selling the options decay the most. And I mean, really, that's what we want. That's why we do an iron butterfly or a broken wing iron butterfly. I want to sell those options. Say, Dan, why don't you just sell those options? Because if I do just sell them naked, the brokerage firm will want my wife, my kids, my house, my neighbor's house, and my friend's house as collateral. And that's a steep price to pay. So what we do here is, if you look in this instance, in a broken wing iron butterfly, I sell the at the money call and put. The underlying is a 29.95. For this example, I'm using Thinkorswim. So as you look at a graph, this is your expiration graph, and this is your graph today. So you always have two graphs, how your graph looks today in purple, how your graph looks, in this case, 44 days in the future, that's green, and over time, this will morph into this. These are the Greeks of the trade, and I'm selling the at-the-money call and the put. That's called a short straddle. That's why I'm doing the trade. And the iron butterfly or broken wing iron butterfly. All broken wing means, and another, what are some other names instead of broken wing? What are some synonymous names for broken wing? asymmetrical, unbalanced, split strike. Well, yeah, but I think the bigger one's asymmetrical or broken wing. And so what does it mean, broken wing? If you look at, I'm selling the 29.95 put. I'm buying the 29.45 put. The distance from my long put to my short put is 50. If this were a balanced butterfly, that's another term, the distance from my short call to my upper strike long call would be 50. That would be a balanced butterfly, but it's not. The distance from my short call to my upper strike long call is 40. So when the distance from the short in an iron butterfly, when the distance from my short to my long put is different from the distance of my short to my long call, it's called broken wing, unbalanced, asymmetrical, right? Question. Why am I doing a broken wing? An SPX or what? If I'm doing at the money, why do you think I did broken wing? Why do you think? One reason. To get the position deltas close to zero. And close to zero to me would be somewhere under 2 deltas, less than 2 deltas long or short per contract, per one contract. Here we're 1.5. That's about neutral to me, right? It's close to neutral. Get it close. That's why I do it. Now, balanced butterflies are going to be cheaper capital-wise than unbalanced. When you do unbalanced, your capital goes up by about 25 to 30%. Now, one of the results, again, the reason we do broken wing butterflies is to get the deltas closer to zero, period. As a result, you'll notice here, I'm bringing in a credit. When you do an iron butterfly or iron condor, do it for credit. Let me just go backwards just for a second. Everybody hold this thought. Let me go backwards for 2 seconds. You with me? Let me go backwards for 2 seconds. In an iron condor is you're selling an out-of-the-money call and put. That's called a short strangle. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me okay? Someone said, did the sounds, okay, you can hear me. So an iron condor is just selling an out-of-the-money call and put as your foundation. That's called a short strangle, and you're just getting a little further out of the money, but you're getting less extrinsic value. Now, in this example, the credit is $36.85. The margin or risk the margin that I have to put up at my brokerage firm for one contract is, I look at the side with the widest width, which is the put side. That's 50 wide. So my worst risk is on the downside. I have $5,000 of risk. $5,000 less my credit. This is my margin. That's what I put up for every one contract. Okay? That's what I put up. Now, if you look at it, this is where the underlying is when I start at the money. But you notice the upside, the green line is the expiration graph at expiration in 44 days. And you can see the upside risk is much less than the downside. My downside risk is $13.15. My upside risk is $305. VIX is currently around here. The risk ratio is almost 4.5 to 1. So when you're doing these type of broken wings, a lot of the ones, how we do it, yes, they're pretty delta neutral, but is there more risk on one side? As Sylvester Stallone said as a young man in Philadelphia, absolutely, right? And if you try to peddle this as something that dreams of it going down, right? As my Italian mother-in-law would say, stupado, right? Is that the right word? Stupado, right? The risk ratio is almost 4.5 to 1, downside to upside. So, what are two of the ramifications of making a balanced butterfly neutral? You get a lot more risk on the downside than the upside, right? Why does it cost more capital once it goes broken wing? Unless you guys have a better answer, the only answer I know, I think someone asked that previously, is because the brokerage firms, well, the answer is this. Your downside risk goes up. And so your brokerage firms are going to charge you on which side has the most risk. That's your margin. You with me? Again, when you have a balanced butterfly on and you turn it like I'm doing here into a broken wing butterfly with less risk on the upside, more risk on the downside, your downside risk goes up about 30%. Are you with me? So why are they charging you that? Because your risk goes up. And your brokerage firm is charging you the risk. Dino gave me a quick history. Rocky is from Philadelphia. Sylvester Stallone is from Hell's Kitchen, Manhattan, New York. Thank you, my Dino. Now, and Art says you get less overall credit by bringing in the long call. Correct. And Jim, did I make a mistake here? I apologize if I did. I put risk to upside. So I looked at the downside risk was 1315, upside risk 305. I just divided 1315 divided by 305 to get about 4.5 to 1. Did I do it wrong? If I did, I apologize. Anyways, so this is a broken wing, and you can see here let me ask you a question. Over the last 8 years with a bull market, do you think having a strategy like this would be more comfortable on the upside or downside? Let me say this in Spanish and a little Norwegian. Upside. Mike says, what stock situation make money? I'm not sure I understand the question. If you're saying, how do you make money in an iron butterfly or a butterfly, the answer is, in this type of a position, you can make money two ways. What are the two ways you make money? Positive time decay or theta, and number two, the implied volatility, you can look at the VIX, decreasing. Those are the two ways. And as long as we can stay in the tent, it's kind of what you want. You kind of make money. You can make money outside of the tent also over time. But the main ways you're making money are time decay and a decrease in volatility. So that's an example of an at-the-money 44-day broken wing butterfly. We've done about quite a few master's classes on short-term strategies, short-term being 7 to 15, 7 to 16 days from expiration. We're going to focus on 30 to 60-day strategies the next 3 weeks. And I recommend that for a bigger portion of your capital because what is a good reason? Why? What is a reason why especially beginners, right? Especially beginners, but most people should have more of their capital and a little more duration, 30 to 60 days. Here's the answer. Yeah, as Leo says, easier to manage, Stewart says less gamma risk, easier to manage, gives you more time to be wrong, right? And I think a blend of short-term and long-term stuff, right? It's like how much hot sauce are you going to put on the burrito at Chipotle? We say you put the whole bottle. Well, what if you put all your capital in short-term trades, 7 days out, because you want the money and you want it now? And so let's say you put all your capital in the 7-day trades. What would happen if we had a 2.5% move down in the SPX tomorrow? What do you think? You'd take the cab over to the emergency room and you'd say, "Doctor, I am so sorry. I promise if you help me feel better, I feel so horrible, I'll never put all my capital into a 7-day trade again. I'm a greedy person, doctor. I want my money quickly. You can make so much money with these short-term trades, doctor. But doctor, I promise if you make me feel better, I won't do it again. I'll diversify, doctor." And the doctor gets you better, right? Doctor gets you better. It's diversification, folks. I love short-term trades. I adore short-term trades. I have posters of short-term trades in my bedroom, right? I love short-term trades. But if you're running a business and you're trying to make consistent income, you have to diversify. You have to be respectful, right? Right? And just, that was joking. I don't have any posters of strategies in my bedroom, but I'm being facetious here, whatever facetious means. The point is, you need to diversify. Price risk goes through the roof on 7 to 15-day trades. I love them, but I think, if I'm a newer trader, walk before you could run, right? Learn the trade. Become a craftsman. All right. So here's an iron butterfly. Here's an example of a butterfly using just puts. Now, first of all, how many people think there's a difference, but how many people would rather do an iron butterfly versus a all puts or calls butterfly? How many would rather do an iron butterfly? Because you get a credit. Anybody? The bottom line is it doesn't matter, right? Whether you do all puts, all calls, or iron, if they're the same strikes, same thing, right? Some people get caught up, and I don't know if it's just a banking section, a banking thing, but I don't know if people get caught up and they think credits, they want to do trades for credits because it's better, right? It's not, but it's one of those areas. If you think strawberry ice cream is better than vanilla and chocolate, I'm not going to argue with you. Go for it. It's an innocent. It doesn't mean anything. So if you think doing iron calls and puts is better than calls and puts, you're wrong. But and I think there's situations like Leo said. If I'm dealing with out of the money options like this and the puts, I'll do, or out of the money on the put side, I'll use puts. If I'm using more out of the money on the upside, I might use calls. Sometimes. So no, Scott says, isn't it better to do calls if the market trend is up? No, it doesn't matter. Which is easier to just, honestly, Abraham, the best answer I could give you, Abraham, it's what you get used to, right? It's what you get used to. I think a stick shift is very difficult to drive. But if you were trained on a stick shift, it's probably the easiest thing in the world. It's just getting whatever you get used to, right? I tell a lot of people, if you're used to doing a ton of credit spreads and then you come into the world of butterflies or iron condors, then I think you'll be more used to iron stuff because you're used to a credit spread. Anyways, here's an example of an out-of-the-money put butterfly. So you can see we're at $29.95. I'm buying one, August 23, 44 days out, 30-20 put. So my width on the upside is 30. That's why I have such little risk on the upside. Here's where the underlying is. My risk on the downside is 50. So on the upside, my long put is 30-20. So we have 30 wide on the upside. Excuse me. 40 wide on the upside. On the downside, I have the 29-30 puts. So I have 50 wide. Why did I do it? To get the stinking deltas closer to zero. Here we are, minus 0.39 is less than a half a delta short. And again, you're always going to be, most of the time when you do at-the-money butterflies, especially if they're balanced, because of the volatility skew in the indexes, you're always going to be leaning some short deltas. So if you look at the Greeks, your deltas are close to zero. That's why we do it. But again, one of the ramifications is you're going to have a lot more risk on the downside than the upside. So here your risk ratio is almost 5-to-1, almost 5 times more risk on the 5 times more risk on the downside than upside. Right? And that's why these, you say, why have these spreads been popular the last 4 or 5 years? Let me think. Let me think real hard. What has the market done the last 6 years? It's gone up. So that's why they've been popular. Again, quoting my friend from Philadelphia, Sylvester Stallone, absolutely, right? Let me take a pause here to, and I'll mention what Dino commented, but just because I'll forget this. One thing I want to bring out is, I just want to bring this out, September 5th and 6th in Chicago. We're having a 2-day live seminar with 13 different speakers. I think it's our 9th year. And I just wanted to bring it up because, and you can go on our front site and look for information. With 2 months to go, we go September 5th and 6th. We literally have 6, and this is, you know, if you know me, I don't just throw crazy stuff out there. We have 6 seats left, right? So we will be sold out by the end of this week. And so I just want to let you know, if you were thinking of coming, if you said, hey, you know what, I want to come with 13 different speakers, quite a few successful traders from Sheridan Mentoring. The theme is bread and butter. People are sharing. This is not an infomercial game. This is everybody sharing what they're doing, their journey with options, what they've been doing. Some outside speakers. We'll have Tom Sosnoff, J.J. Kinahan, and Kevin Hinkle, I think is his last name, from TD Ameritrade, all very good traders. They'll be sharing what they personally do, 13 different speakers. And but if you're interested, you're thinking of it, I'd heavily advise you to get it in the next day or two, just because it will be sold out by Friday or Saturday. As I said, there's only 6 or 7, just to let you know. Kevin Hinks. All right, couple quick questions before we talk a little more about this. I'm going to talk about the Greeks here a second, and then I'll get to some of the questions some of the guys have. So if you look at the Greeks, our theta is 511. What does that mean in English, Spanish, and Portuguese? The theta of 11, of 5, simply means it's a theoretical number, first of all. And it's just saying, if you just take one day, just go theoretically look or simulate, look at today, and then run the date, change the date to tomorrow, you should get a theta of about $5, right? And that number increases as we get closer to expiration. And all that means is your short options, you're selling the ones with more extrinsic value, you're buying the options with less extrinsic, your shorts are going to decay more. And as we get closer to expiration, you'll have more decay. Vega of minus 43, what does that mean? Again, we're selling the options that have more extrinsic value or buying the options that have less extrinsic. Volatility measures the extrinsic part of an option, which we'd call extrinsic value, time premium, juice, black gold, whatever you want to call it. The point is, if you theoretically, the Vega of minus 43, what it means is if you decreased the volatility down 1 point of each of my three options represented, the 30-20 put, the 29-80 put, and the 29-30, if all three options decreased by 1 point from the levels they're at, and that doesn't always happen exactly like that, very seldom, exactly they go down a point, but if they did, we'd make $43. Why? Because your shorts are going to decay, or excuse me, if the volatility decreases a point in each of those three options, you'll make more on your short options because you sold the one with more extrinsic value. Conversely, if the volatilities go up a point for each of those three options, you'll lose $43 because now you're caught holding the bag. You sold the ones with more extrinsic value. Thomas Zhang says, what does it really mean by delta neutral? Delta neutral, good question. Delta neutral just means your position deltas when you start the trade are pretty close to zero, within one or two deltas. But delta neutral, here's the question. Does delta neutral talk about the risk of the trade? Yes or no? Does delta neutral? No, not at all. If you sold an at-the-money call and put a short straddle, you've got enough risk to kill two horses and a cow, right? But you could be delta neutral. So delta neutral is just saying, what are your position deltas starting out? It doesn't give you a picture of the risk. Another question by the famous Rick Lee says, if you want to risk less, use XSP. XSP is just like SPY, 1/10 the value of the SPX, but a European index. Here's my only thought on that. So I think Rick's made a good point. Has anybody traded XSP? It's 1/10 the size of SPX. Has anybody traded XSP? That's the baby, and it's just like the SPX. Here's my thought on it. The few times that I've tried it, the execution, let me say this, a nice word, stinks. Right? I put something in SPX, I get filled near the mid price, boom, 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 bada bing, bada boom. Right? My experience in XSP is that the execution is not that good. Now, have I traded it a lot? No. But I need a liquid vehicle, right? I only trade liquid vehicles. I want to be able to get in and get out, especially when the market's tanking. I want liquid vehicles, or you're just playing with fire. Any other questions? All right. Anyways, so again, it should be a great class. Again, there'll be a lot of live trades. We'll follow them through. The goal is to help you become a craftsman, help you to do this, but see these little nuances. Anybody, again, as I always say, I can teach the cooks at Chipotle in an hour to put on a spread. Can't teach them in an hour to manage it. And we're going to be sharing a lot of, we've done a ton of these broken wings over the last 10 years in Sheridan Mentoring, and I think we have some very good techniques, and we want to share that, work with you, help you become a better craftsman. Again, if you have any questions, most of them a lot will be answered in the class. How long will you stay in these trades? It depends. It depends on these. Again, we have a plan set for every trade. We don't go near expiration on these. Generally, a lot of times it might be about 25% of the duration. But again, how long we stay in is based on our plan. Profit target on this trade. Again, we'll talk about. I don't want to just throw one profit target out there. We have some different. I want to explain it more. That's why we're doing a whole 6, 7 hours, 8 hours on this thing. I don't want to just throw a number out without explaining it. But that's something under the risk management we're going to hit heavily in this class. So if you have any questions on the class, what will be covered or anything, you can email me, Dan at SheridanMentoring.com. But excited about this class. Very profitable strategy in our community over the years, and we'll see you guys a week from Thursday. So have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll see you later.